minutes into the flight, velocity approaching 13,500 miles an hour.
Everything is nominal. Copy.
Again, once that third stage is done with its job, the Soyuz will separate, and then they'll execute a series of commands, all pre-programmed in, to prepare the Soyuz to fly around in outer space. And those will allow all the onboard computers to deploy the solar arrays, which you can see the blue cells folded up alongside the body, and also a bunch of antennas. But everything's still looking great. We should have about 40 seconds until that third stage cutoff.
Nominal on board, and the crew mood is festive. And you have 30 seconds prior to third stage separation. Copy. 500 seconds into flight, everything is nominal. .510 seconds into flight. .520 seconds into flight. Please be prepared for GECA 3 command. We are ready.
And there we see that bit of a jolt. You can see the talisman starting to float, and I think they're in outer space now.
Welcome to low Earth orbit.
Congratulations with the successful launch and insertion into orbit. Have an excellent flight. Good luck.
And we have confirmation the third stage has shut down and separated.
Hawaii, Moscow.
And getting confirmation from the visiting vehicle officer, all solar arrays and antennas have been deployed. So a healthy Soyuz spacecraft now in orbit. 3 crew members, Drew Feustel, Ricky Arnold, and Oleg Artemyev, ready to chase down the International Space Station. So their first taste of microgravity has got to be a feeling of relief, accomplishment, excitement, wonder. I can't imagine what's going through your head when you're in that moment right there.
I think you nailed it, Dan. Relief and extreme excitement, and then you see the crew. They're not taking any time to look outside right now, Dan. They're making sure their vehicle is safe to continue the mission. They're checking the pressurization systems. They were just closing some oxygen valves, and they're going to go through about a 30-minute process now of making sure that they are not leaking any of that precious atmosphere out into the vacuum of space. So this is actually a very busy time for the crew. You can see Oleg and Drew there are kind of working in concert at the same time to make sure all of their systems look great.
All right, well, since it's a 2-day flight for them, so with the 6-hour flight, do you get a chance to kind of relax and get out of your suit, or are you in that seat the entire time?
I never left that seat. Your commander gets out of the seat for just a few seconds, but the left and right seaters there, in this case it'd be Drew and Ricky, they wouldn't leave their seat. But in this 2-day profile, once they check their vehicle and everything looks good, they'll do a few orbital adjustment burns today, and then they actually have a chance to go to sleep up there.
All right, well, control and monitoring of the vehicle are going to be overseen from this room that you're seeing right here, the Russian Mission Control Center just outside of Moscow. And again, they're relaying all the data over to us here in Mission Control Houston. Again, we heard good confirmation of solar array and antenna deploy. So a healthy Soyuz spacecraft in orbit, ready to begin its chase down of the International Space Station.
The AKG was not initiated when we pressed the initiation button. Well, I'm standing by for the first IP measurement. First measurement, this is Hawaii 2. Time is 20. As the pressure is 794. BO pressure is 002. BO pressure is 800. It is 855. Copy Hawaii. And now Have I?
All right, well, now that we have a crew safely in orbit, we wanted to take a couple moments, answer a few more Twitter questions. Again, if you have any, you can always use the hashtag AskNASA to send them along. This one comes from Manish Kumar Mishra, who wanted to know, how does the research that you're doing in space help prepare to send humans to Mars and beyond?
Well, it's all about just learning how to live and work up there. And then these trips that we will take to Mars, I would say in the near future, they're going to be years-long kind of trips, 6 months out, spend maybe a year or two on the surface and 6 months back, and we just want to know what happens to the human body in all that time. Radiation, your bones change, your muscle changes, your blood changes, your eyesight changes, your heart changes, everything changes. And so,
Everything changes.
and then how do we build safer vehicles? What kind of materials do we use, et cetera, et cetera. So we're looking, every day we're looking at all of those things, even just something as simple as the water that we drink. How do we recycle all of that water? Those systems are on board the space station. How do we keep the oxygen level right in the atmosphere? All of that we need to learn in low Earth orbit before we head out. And the space station's been up there for almost 20 years, and these things, they're really coming into focus. So we're really getting prepared to head out on a deeper space journey.
All right. Our next one comes from Elise, a little bit of the lighter side. Can the crew watch TV, listen to the radio? What do you guys do for fun up there?
In the Soyuz, you cannot. You have your two crewmates in the Earth, and that should keep
Bring
you
a book.
entertained. But for the 6 months that you're on the space station, you get one channel of TV, and then you can request a few shows that are uplinked a couple times a week. So you actually stay pretty well entertained. But by far the thing you want to watch the most when you're up there is the Earth below you. It's always magical. It's always got something new for you to look at, and that really captures your fascination.
All right, this next one from Marcia Pohl. So this will be different depending on how your flight goes, but how long was it before you got to sleep on your launch day? So for you, it was different because
for me it was different, and it took a while. And that first night on the space station, you're in this crazy foreign world. The Soyuz is a tiny little spacecraft, so once they get their onboard systems checked out and everything is looking good, it's pretty, from what I hear, it's pretty easy to go to sleep in the Soyuz. And so I would say they're only a few hours away from being able to take that first nap.
All right. Okay, and then how do the astronauts typically spend their time when they're traveling towards the station? So on a 2-day, what are they kind of getting into? Because it is kind of a small space, but what can they do?
Well, they can listen to music, they can tell jokes to each other, they can read books if they brought any. Most crews are going to take something to keep them occupied. But then from time to time, they're going to be checking in with Moscow Mission Control. They're going to be doing orbital correction burns. They're going to be verifying that their spacecraft is safe. So in between some periods of downtime, they also have some pretty intense work to do.
All right, well, we got time for one more. This one's from Elise, and she wanted to know what it feels like to be in the rocket during launch. So if you had to pick kind of one thing that really stands out to you when you're on a rocket for a launch, what really kind of, what do you never forget?
Power.
Power.
You never forget that power. I mean, you are being hurled from 0 miles an hour to 17,000 miles an hour in 8.5 minutes.
That's pretty quick.
There's a lot of power.
It's a good 0 to 60 time. All right. Well, again, thanks for sending in your questions using the hashtag AskNASA. We'll continue to answer them on social media and any other time we do these kind of broadcasts, and hopefully anytime I can drag Reed on here with me. So keep on sending those in. We always love to hear from you guys. All right. Well, with the Soyuz now in orbit, it's going to arrive at the International Space Station in just 2 days. So we will have a couple of updates for you real quick on how you can watch all of that coming up.
55 is the third measurement. Copy. Is the third number of the measurement. Moscow, Hawaii, how do you copy? You copy loud and clear. But with interference, as if you're very...
All right. Well, immediately following today's broadcast, we're going to be bringing you launch replays from a bunch of the different cameras that were out there in Baikonur to watch that rocket lift off the pad. That'll be coming up right next. And then later today at 3 p.m. Central, 4 p.m. Eastern, we'll do a video file of the post-launch, giving you all the best views of the launch itself. And then any other interviews we got with some folks there on the ground in Baikonur to watch today's events. And then we will be back with our live coverage of this mission on Friday, March 23rd. And we'll be starting off at 2 p.m., so another great time of the day to watch a Soyuz flying through space. We'll come on the air at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern for docking coverage. They're scheduled to dock at 2:41 p.m. Central. Following that, they'll dock, they'll spend a couple of hours doing some leak checks and then get the hatches open. Hatch opening coverage will start at 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern. The hatch opening scheduled to come about 35 minutes later. And then the crew members will be able to go on board, greet their new crew members in their new home for the next 6 months, and then we'll close with that final video file of all of the highlights from that day's events.
Well, no, the comm is intermittent. We cannot hear you very well. Давай, you can loosen your shoulder straps, open your visors, deactivate thermal sensors at the specified time. Copy regarding thermal sensors.
Все верно. Корабль выведен на орбиту, параметры орбиты номинальные.
Has been inserted into orbit, and the parameters of the orbit are all nominal.
All right, well, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to watch these three humans blast off the face of planet Earth. I want to thank Reed Wiseman, NASA astronaut, for joining me here today on console. Reed, it's been a pleasure. Hope you had some fun.
Any chance I get to come to Mission Control, I'm here for you.
All right, we'll bring you back. All right, well, again, stick around. We're going to be bringing you replays of that fantastic night launch. So stick around, see that rocket lift off a few more times. Thanks again for joining us today. Come back on Friday to watch them dock to the International Space Station. But for now, that'll do it for us. This is Mission Control Houston.